I call on the Honorable Leader of the Opposition to read the prayers.
Mr. Speaker, before I read the prayers, I think I should read a scripture. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked, even mine enemies and my foes, came upon me to eat up my flesh, they stumbled and fell. Hide not thy face far from me. Put not thy servant away in anger. Thou hast been my help. Leave me not, neither forsake me, O God of my salvation. Teach me thy way, O Lord, and lead me in a plain path because of mine enemies. Deliver me not over unto the will of mine enemies, for false witnesses are risen up against me, and as such as breathe out cruelly. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, my son, keep thy father's commandments, and forsake not the law of thy mother. Bind them continually upon thine heart, and tie them about thy neck. When thou goest, it shall lead thee. When thou sleepest, it shall keep thee. And when thou awakest, it shall talk with thee. For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is a light, and reproofs of instructions are the way of life. Let us pray. Almighty God, from whom all wisdom and power are derived, we beseech thee so to direct and prosper the deliberations of the Legislative Assembly now assembled, that all things may be ordered upon the best and surest foundations for the glory of thy name, and for the safety, honor, and welfare of the people of these islands. Bless our sovereign lady, Queen Elizabeth II, Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, Charles, Prince of Wales, and all the royal family. Give grace to all who exercise authority in our Commonwealth, that peace and happiness, truth and justice, religion and piety may be established among us. Especially we pray for the governor of our islands, the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, official members and ministers of cabinet, and members of the Legislative Assembly, that we may be enabled faithfully to perform the responsible duties of our high office. All this we ask for thy great name's sake. Let us say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon us and give us peace, now and always. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated.
Reading by the Honorable Speaker, messages and announcements.
I would like to once again give apologies for Madam Speaker, who is still under the weather. I would also like to take this opportunity on behalf of the House to extend sympathies to our Deputy Clerk on the passing of our sister-in-law, Miss Julie Smith. May God comfort you and the family at this sad time. I would also like to give apologies at this time for the late start, as we had to do some very important amendments.
Statements by honorable members and ministers of the Cabinet.
I call on the Honorable Minister of Finance for a statement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to make a statement to this Honorable Legislative Assembly that is connected to a press release issued on the 11th of July 2013 detailing the return of CI $728,364.83 by Wesleyan Holiness Church in West Bay. Mr. Speaker, it was my intention and that of the government to deposit these monies to government's general reserves bank account. However, in order to minimize the chances of government's operating bank account going into overdraft at a time and incurring overdraft interest charges, the decision was taken in July 2013 to pay the monies into the operating bank account instead. Now that the government has received substantial inflows of cash with respect to the various annual fees, it is possible to transfer the amount of CI $728,364.83 to the general reserves as originally intended, without causing any overdraft interest to be incurred. On the 24th of January 2014, the Treasury issued instructions to transfer this amount to the General Reserves Bank account, and hence the balance therein has increased by the said figure, Mr. Speaker, of CI $728,364.83. Mr. Speaker, placing the $728,364.83 into the General Reserves Bank account restricts the use of these funds. As honorable members will know, funds in the General Reserves can only be used when the Legislative Assembly permits such usage. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, the General Reserves of the Cayman Islands has been increased by nearly $750,000. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Give him all that money, he couldn't build a church hall.
I now call on the Minister of Health.
A pastor we had. He wanted me to build it too.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity to provide an update to the people of the Cayman Islands regarding the work that the Cayman Islands government is doing toward arriving at a comprehensive solid waste disposal management system for the Cayman Islands. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure that the members of this Honorable House will agree that a comprehensive waste management system is needed as a matter of urgency. The question of what to do with our solid waste has been a long-standing area of concern for the Cayman Islands, and with each passing year, the need to address it increases as we continue to use landfills as our primary method of solid waste management. Events such as the recent fire at the Georgetown landfill in December 2013 only serve to underscore the fact that it is of critical importance to the country that we find a sustainable solution to waste management. Mr. Speaker, the urgency of this matter has not escaped us, and I want to reassure the public that our government has identified a comprehensive waste management system as a project of national importance for the government, and we are committed to moving forward to see it come to fruition. As members will be aware, projects of this magnitude must go through a robust procurement process that includes careful and thorough evaluation in the early strategic stages of the project in order to maximize value for money and ensure a successful project delivery. These enhanced processes also ensure transparency and accountability, principles that this government is steadfast in its commitment to uphold. This enhanced procurement process was envisioned in the Framework for Fiscal Responsibility, or FFR, the key principles of which have been encapsulated in the Public Management Finance Law, or PMFL. These principles are effective medium-term planning to ensure that the full impact of fiscal decisions is understood, putting value for money considerations at the heart of the decision-making process, the effective management of risk, and finally, delivering improved accountability in all public sector operations. Mr. Speaker, my ministry has embarked on the process to procure a comprehensive waste management system for the Cayman Islands. In late 2013, Cabinet approved the policy guidance for the project, which sets out the government's broad policy direction for the project. In addition to confirming our commitment to an open, transparent, and competitive procurement process, the policy guidance outlines that 1. we want to provide the people of the Cayman Islands with an environmentally sound and cost-effective means to manage the disposal of all solid waste generated in the Cayman Islands, and this must be at no greater cost to the Cayman Islands government than currently experienced. 2, we expect to achieve this through the integration of effective long-term management programs for collection, processing, recycling, and disposal of solid waste, and we anticipate that waste energy will be a key technology in this strategy. However, we will not close our minds to other systems that may surface during analysis that will be done. 3, we want to ensure public health and safety, protect our natural environment and natural resources for the near and long term. 4, we want a solution in situ, that is, at the current landfill site. 5, we anticipate that we will undertake this project as a PPP or public-private partnership. Mr. Speaker, a multi-agency steering committee has been formed for the comprehensive waste management system and is being chaired by my ministry. This group convened its first meeting on the 22nd of January 2014 and will continue to meet on a regular basis to move this important initiative forward. Mr. Speaker, Cabinet is relying on this steering committee to provide government with their best technical advice, to take responsibility for the business issues associated with the project, to approve budgetary and procurement strategy, to define and realize benefits, and to monitor the risk, quality, and timeliness of the comprehensive waste management system. I am confident, Mr. Speaker, that the steering committee will deliver the project in line with the Cabinet policy guidance that they were given. Mr. Speaker, in order to keep the work of the steering committee neutral and free from political involvement, I will not be a member of the steering committee. I will be getting regular updates on the steering committee's work and progress from my ministry's chief officer. Mr. Speaker, our government remains committed to a transparent and accountable process for arriving at a comprehensive waste management system in line with the FFR and with the provisions of the PMFL, respectively. The steering committee has been charged with ensuring that the 5 key stages will be carefully undertaken in the planning, development, and execution of a comprehensive waste management system. These are the appraisal and business case, procurement, contract management, delivery, and evaluation. This will mean, Mr. Speaker, a fairly lengthy process. However, this process is crucial for prudent fiscal management and the integrity of the entire comprehensive waste management system. In addition, undertaking a strategic and comprehensive approach to the process will result in a better defined project with a greater chance of successful implementation. The process we are embarking on now, Mr. Speaker, will help us to define a comprehensive waste management system, and I believe it will also help us to identify other initiatives that we may need to undertake in order to achieve our overall goal of a sustainable waste management solution. I will provide regular updates to the members as we move through this process. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I would appreciate asking some questions as offered under the standing orders.
32. So order.
Mr. Speaker, just to thank the Minister for informing us of this matter, would want to find out who are the members for the committee.
Thank you to the Leader of Opposition. Mr. Speaker, the members of the committee are Ms. Jennifer Ahern, my Chief Officer, Ms. Nancy Bernard, the Deputy Chief Officer, Mrs. Sheila Alvarez, Administrative Officer in the Ministry, Dr. Maison Salam, the Assistant Director of Solid Waste, Ms. Gina Ebanks-Petrie, the Director of the Department of Environment, Mr. Alva Saku, Ministerial Counselor, Ms. Ann Owens, Senior Assistant Financial Secretary, Ms. Wendy Williams, Environmental Assessment Officer, Department of Environment, Mr. Jim Scott, Director, Public Works, Dr. Kiran Kumar, Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Julia Van Genderen, the Director of the Water Authority, Dr. Henrik Van Genderen, Water Resource Engineer, Mr. Ray Farrington, Private Sector Representative, Mr. Haroon Pandue, Director of the Planning Department, Mr. Max Jones, Senior Project Manager, Public Works, and Mr. Woody DeCosta, Private Sector Representative.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, save for 2 members on this who are members of the private sector, what other, and save for the government reps who would have some knowledge about waste management, what other professional what other professionals that would have waste management background, waste management knowledge, capable of dealing with the monstrosity that the minister has to deal with, would he have available to him? Is he planning to co-opt them when necessary? Or what I would advise, and who am I, but I would advise that he move quickly to get waste management knowledge outside of what we have.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of the things that I will be doing in the near future with a select number of that committee will be to travel to see a number of sites. We have been also talking to people that have knowledge. Be talking to the previous minister who worked in this area, did a lot of work. I've spoken to members that sat on his committee. I plan to educate myself certainly as much as I can in terms of how we move forward, but in terms of the real technical expertise, naturally they would be co-opted as we move through the process.
Honorable Member from Easton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't know if the minister has, but can he tell us the terms of reference for this committee and whether or not government has set on timelines as to a report and solutions being recommended?
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, well, the terms of reference is for the committee to operate under the broad parameters, as I spoke earlier about, which Cabinet have approved. Just bear with me if find them in what I said earlier. No, there was. What was in there? Oh yeah, yeah, you're right. It is. Yeah, that on page 4 of 7. Basically, those were the points that I numbered, and as I went through, there were 5 main points, the broad parameters under which Cabinet policy guidance for the project. So that's the starting point for the steering committee. And the second point was, your second part, the time frame. Timeline. The timeline has to be actually set out by the steering committee, because the FFR process and as I understand it, the number of, because we're following closely the same procedure as being conducted by the Deputy Premier with the port project, and there are a number of RFPs as you go along, and there are timelines that will be set out by the Public Works people in particular. who will have a lot to do with that. Personally, my own timeline is within a matter of 2 years from now. I want action at that landfill. I want something happening. I want the process on the way. But that is my own personal view at this point. Whether that is doable or not is left to be seen once the process really gets going under this steering committee. And the requirements, of course, of the FFR.
Honorable member from East End.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when I was in government, one of the things we did was in the renegotiations of CUC license. And then we put a provision in there that they would have to buy waste energy, electricity from the landfill, because that was our intent then. Is that part of the terms of reference for these people about discussing that to offset the cost of doing a proper waste management at the landfill?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have said for some time, and the former minister is right, in that waste energy has been the way we would like to see this go. Now, as I've gradually educated myself about this, because I'm no technical expert in this area, I've come to learn that there are other processes, and I think himself in his own travels when he was looking at landfills around the U.S., and speaking to one of his committee members, I found out that there are many other processes, as well as reading, that waste energy is one option, but there are other options for a small community that, as I said when I was reading my statement, that may be explored. However, if it turns out that waste energy is indeed the way that we go, and there's a company that shows up under the parameters as we go through the process, and a successful bidder comes along, waste energy, naturally the importance of CUC to the process is very, very important, and we have to make sure that they are spoken to and well in advance. And I think CUC will know already that from our pronouncements that this is something that we are looking towards achieving. And I know that speaking to the minister now in charge of CUC, Minister Tibbetts, that there's no uncertainty in their minds that would be something that we would expect for them to work with us towards accomplishing. So if waste energy ends up to be the end result for this, then that will naturally occur. But as I said, I don't want to close my mind or close the committee's mind to other possible options, because there are many other processes out there for dealing with waste, and we want to take this and look at all of the options available. Thank you.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, in addition to confirming commitment to open, transparent, and competitive procurement process, the guidelines that are outlined here, can the minister say that these are just guidelines for the steering committee, and of course broader and more defined project guidelines would come, and of course that would be made available to members of the House or to the public?
Honorable Minister.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, the answer to both of the Leader of the Opposition's questions is yes.
Last question.
Thank you very much, Mr. And Mr. Speaker, the member would say that in terms of the last study done on the landfill that we have, the dump that we have, that, of course, the committee and the minister himself will take serious cognizance of that study.
Honorable Minister.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, that study we will take cognizance of it. And Mr. Speaker, I'm glad for these questions because this is not a government initiative in terms of just us. This is a House initiative as far as I'm concerned. This is very, very important for these Cayman Islands. And together, we must find a solution to our waste management problem. It's a very serious issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
I see the Minister has one final question. Member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, this may be a little bit off base, but I would like to believe that the minister would entertain me. I had reason to.
He said
I
you
had
wanted
reason
vote.
to visit the dump recently, the landfill, whatever you want to call it. And I was a little bit surprised, taken aback by the condition the dump is in that I would venture to say there was, in certain areas, there were probably 2-3 inches of oil floating on the ground. That is a situation that I would like to know if the minister, how we're addressing that currently in the interim, because it wasn't very good there. I noted also that the shredder that I bought in the waning hours of my tenure has not been working for a couple of years. And the fact that we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on these new equipment and there's no maintenance placed on them. We work them until they break down, then we don't do anything with them. And then the tires pile up, then we have the plumes of black smoke over Georgetown. So I'm just wondering if he would entertain me on what is being done to address those areas on the dump currently.
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I couldn't agree with the member from East End more. The situation at the dump is right now is less than satisfactory, and I have indicated that to the director and to my chief officer, because as he rightly says, when I went there, I found this shortage of equipment. So one of the guys came over to me and said, boss, them said they don't have an excavator, but there's a brand new excavator sitting down here and the engine gone, sir. I said, where the engine gone? When I inquired, that engine I heard was in Brazil. I really don't understand some of the things that have gone on there, but the fact is that is unsatisfactory running of certain areas of that dump right now, and it has to be gotten under control. Now we also have with a lot of broken equipment, we ended up having a lot of garbage piled up. As you would have seen, the areas where you used to drive previously almost were blocked off and things, because those they weren't able to move the stuff as they should be able to, and they were having to subcontract equipment from the NRA and the like. So there is a lot there that needs to be sorted out under the current environment, and I don't want anyone thinking that because we are moving forward to another process eventually that we can just, as it were, disregard what is there. No, we have to continue to manage that, and the department knows that, and I am sure that they have heeded what I've said, and they will be busy remedying the situation. But it didn't happen overnight the way it is right now, and they're going to take some time to get it back on track.
Mr.
Member from East End.
No, that's an important point. I'm also working closely with the Minister of Works to develop. We may know that there is now a new director at or I think his director's name, his title is at DVS, and we are working closely with a new and better maintenance program. We are talking to our own, that is the DEH operators and drivers, to ensure that they perform better with the equipment and not just be reckless, because oftentimes I think things are broken because of reckless behavior. So we've also managed to get the 3 new garbage trucks on island. I don't know if training is being conducted, and I have actually told the director I want to come there one day before they hit the road and actually speak to them. And we expect that they will be commissioned in the very near future. So the 2 more trucks are ordered, and the front loaders, I think those are, because we have the residential trucks now which are on island, but the front loaders which handle a lot of the commercial waste are now being ordered as well, and a number of them will be repaired. But the state of the fleet there, Mr. Speaker, was really, really horrendous. I mean, the average age of that stuff must have been somewhere in the vicinity of 15 years or more, and as a result, naturally, if you don't take good care of something that old, it's going to break. So we've had a lot of breakage. We've had issues at DVS. We've had our own internal issues with DEH, and we're working hard to try and bring it all back on plane, and hopefully, get a better service in the meantime. We're working hard as well to get a new comprehensive waste management system. Thank you.
Member from East End.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I applaud the minister for trying to get the ordering of new equipment back on track. When I was there, we ordered somewhere around 3 trucks. And a program was in place for every 18 months to order a new truck. And it just went off the end of the precipice. Mr. Speaker, I experienced the same problems the current ministers now experiencing. The lack of maintenance, the lack of detail, of attention to detail with the maintenance of those very important vehicles, particularly garbage, ambulance, and police vehicles. When I got into that problem, found that problem, the first thing I did was make them pick up residential waste by us engaging dump trucks. Seal them up and put them out on the road. I wonder if anyone has suggested that to the minister, that whilst our trucks are down, we use dump trucks, we just throw it on the back and take it to the dump it out. And it worked very well then. We didn't have to do it for very long. It was just a couple of weeks that we used dump trucks. We sealed them with silicone around the back and made sure they weren't leaking. And we didn't have the residents complaining that garbage was rotten on their front lawn. I don't know if anyone has suggested that to the minister, but may I just suggest that in those crises, that's what you order that they do.
Mr. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks for the advice of the former minister. That was not done in the past few weeks when we had the crisis, and I guess it is unfortunate that it wasn't, but I think I'm pretty confident that the schedule that they have now put in place, which has been publicized, and up to this morning I heard them in my area, which is according to that schedule on Fridays. I'm hoping and trusting that they are on top of it at this point. And once those new trucks are put into operation within the next week or two, we should be residential. Everything should be back normal with residential. But Going forward, future crisis, God forbid, we will employ such methods. Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Government business, bills, committee on bills.
The House will now go into committee to consider the bills. The House is now in committee. With the leave of the House, may I assume that, as usual, we should authorize the Honorable Attorney General to correct minor errors and such the likes in these bills. Would the clerk please state the bills and read the clauses?
The Police Amendment Bill 2014, Clause 1, short title and commencement.
The question is that Clause 1 do stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Clause 1 stands part of the bill.
Clause 2, amendment of Section 65 of the Police Law, Law 36 of 2010, detention of persons arrested without warrant.
There is an amendment by the Honorable Attorney General to this clause. I call on the Honorable Attorney General.
Thank you, Thank you, Chair. In accordance with the provision of Standing Order 52(1) and 2, I hereby move the following amendment to the Police Amendment Bill 2014. That is that the bill be amended in Clause 2C in the new Section 65(5)A, proposed for insertion in the principal law by deleting the words superintendent and substituting the words chief inspector. So, Mr. Chair, the bill would say a police officer of the rank of chief inspector or above. Thank you.
The question is that Clause 2, as amended, do stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Clause 2, as amended, stands part of the bill. The question is that the amendments stand part of the clause. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The amendment stands part of the clause. The question is that Clause 2, as amended, stand part of the bill. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, no. Ayes have it.
A bill for a law to amend the Police Law 2010, Law 36 of 2010, to make the procedure following on the detention of persons in Section 64 consistent with Section 5.5 of the Cayman Islands Constitution and to provide for incidental and connected purposes.
The question is that the title do stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The title stands part of the bill.
The Criminal Procedure Code Amendment Bill 2013, Clause 1, short title, Clause 2, Amendment of Section 60 of the Criminal Procedure Code 2013 revision, accused person entitled to be present at trial and related proceedings and may be presented by a legal practitioner. Clause 3, insertion of Section 60A, appearing by live television link, etc., for purpose of mention and remand.
The question is that clauses 1, 2, and 3 do stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Clauses 1, 2, and 3 do stand part of the bill.
A bill for a law to amend the Criminal Procedure Code 2013 revision to make provision for teleconferencing for purposes of mention and remand and for incidental and connected purposes.
The question is that the title do stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The title stands part of the bill.
The Standards in Public Life Bill 2013. Clause 1, short title and commencement. Clause 2, interpretation. Clause 3, application. Clause 4, establishment of Commission for Standards in Public Life. Clause 5, functions of Commission. Clause 6, gazettal of appointment and vacation of office. Clause 7, remuneration and staff.
The question is that clauses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 do stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Clauses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 stands part of the bill.
Clause 8, reports and media releases.
There's an amendment to Clause 8.
Mr. Chairman, in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order 52, Suborder 1 and Suborder 2, I, Alden McLaughlin, Premier, give notice to move the following amendments to the Standards in Public Life Bill 2013. That the bill be amended as follows. In Clause 8, by deleting Subclause 2 and substituting the following subclause. The Commission may, in its own discretion, issue such reports and releases to the public as it sees fit, and any such reports and releases shall be sent by the Commission electronically to the Speaker for corresponding dissemination to all members of the Legislative Assembly, not less than 48 hours before such issuance to the public, unless it is not reasonably practicable to comply with the 48-hour period, in which case that period may be abridged by the Commission.
I have received notice of the amendment. I've given the member leave to bring the amendment. The amendment has been duly moved. Does any member wish to speak thereto? The question is that the amendment stand part of the clause. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The amendment stands part of the clause. The question now is that clause 8, as amended, stand part of the bill. If no member wishes to speak, the question is that clause 8, as amended, stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The clause as amended stands part of the bill.
Clause 9, principles and codes of conduct.
There's an amendment to clause 9 also. Honorable Premier.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the bill be amended in clause 9, subclause 3, by deleting the words "their staff" at the end of the subclause and substituting the words "public officers."
The amendment has been duly moved. Does any member wish to speak thereto? Nine three.
Mr. Chairman, for the clarification of the committee, we are substituting the words "public officers" for "their staff." The term "staff" is not used otherwise in the bill, and the bill throughout refers to public officers. So we're simply making this change to be consistent. There is no change in substance.
The question is that the amendment stand part of the clause. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The amendment stands part of the clause. The question now is that clause 9, as amended, stand part of the bill. The question is that clause 9, as amended, stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The clause as amended stands part of the bill.
Clause 10, conflict of interest, persons in public life.
Honorable Premier.
Mr. Chairman, I move that clause 10.1 be amended by deleting the words "has a conflict" and substituting therefore the words "has a possible or perceived conflict."
The amendment has been duly moved. Does any member wish to speak thereto? Mr. McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I spoke about this in my debate, and I don't know if the government has considered. I had private conversations with some of the government concerning it, and particularly the authority that I was most concerned with, which was planning, and whether or not this could potentially cause problems with development and planning approvals for development, because of having so many people on planning, and that's no fault of the government. It's just that the situation is such that you need the expertise and how it's going to work if it's a balancing act, we know, but perceive can come from anywhere. Conflict such as somebody, one of those members or one of the members' staff doing a quote on a development, and they have no knowledge of it. And that's where my concerns were. I don't know if the Premier is getting me and where I'm coming from.
Mr. Chairman, this section, in fact, the legislation is intended to deal with those sorts of situations where there are conflicts or perceptions of conflict. And what this section, what the clause provides, and I'll read the whole clause, where a person in public life has a conflict of interest with respect to any matter that comes up for discussion, he shall disclose his interest. What is being changed is has a conflict, and what we're substituting, therefore, are the words has a possible or perceived conflict. He shall disclose his interest, and A, shall as soon as the matter comes up on the agenda, immediately leave the place in which deliberations are taking place, and shall not participate directly or indirectly in the deliberations touching such matter, and shall not return while the matter is under discussion until a decision has been taken by the body concerned, and shall otherwise comply with such regulations as Cabinet may make with regard to conflict of interest. So the bill, and in particular this clause, is designed to deal with the situations to which I believe the member is referring. If a member of that authority or any other board has a possible or perceived conflict with respect to a matter that's on the agenda or that is being discussed, they need to leave the room. That's the purpose of it.
Mr. Chairman, obviously, I didn't explain that good enough for the Premier. Let me go into it and using the scenario of the planning department. Most members on planning are involved in construction, development, or whatever, but in particular construction. And when developers are trying to cost their development, they will ask these contractors to give them prices on it. Architects will likewise. Now, one of those members who have staff, the staff could have been given costing, because you're not going to get planning permission until you know what the cost of your development is. You're going to have some rough idea as to what the value is. You get that through architects and going out to the suppliers, so to speak. And that happens 2 months prior to it coming to planning. There are objections to that project. And the planning department, in most instances, all of them would have to excuse themselves because they all do different aspects of development, construction, selling material, doing specific things, like some may be in the business of roofing, some may be in the business of windows, what have you, and what have you. And they don't excuse themselves. There is a potential conflict. They haven't been given the contract to supply anything, but they have provided prices. There is a perceived conflict there. My concern is, if that is not declared and they leave the room, and you could have 5, 6 people leaving the room on that particular project, if they don't, one of them don't, does it leave room for appeal and successful appeal by those objectors? That's where I have my concerns.
Honorable Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, if that would be the case, that is already the case, regardless of this particular piece of legislation. The reality is that there are going to have to be some changes in the way that boards operate. And there are a number of boards, and I think we all are aware of them, that often have members who we would regard as having a conflict of interest with respect to the decisions. It is precisely those sorts of situations, that sort of mischief, that the bill seeks to remedy. And some changes are going to have to be made in the way we do things. We may even changes made with respect to the kind of persons that get appointed to some of these authorities. But it's either we do that or that we accept that the conflict is, or perceived conflict is okay.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I hear the Premier, and I support his view that now that is the same thing, that situation could occur right now. But we have always considered it conflict, such as they have a contract to provide material for that place. We are now putting in perceived conflict. Therein lies my concern. In the past, he had, oh yeah, I bid on that, but I don't know if I could get it. I provided pricing on the material, but I don't know if I'm going to get it. He can get it from anywhere. But they don't have the actual contract. So in the broader sense, that may have been overlooked. But now if there's a perceived conflict, that additional perceived conflict is where my concern is. Because we need the development, and we don't want to crack our eggs without touching them.
Mr. Premier. But, Mr. Chairman, but let's examine this. If there is an application for planning permission for a development, and you as a contractor or an architect or quantity surveyor or whatever the case may be, have been asked to bid on it or to provide costing, you have a vested interest in the outcome of that development, that planning application. So if the question then becomes whether that interest may influence your decision with respect to that application. And if the answer to that is that it might, then you have a conflict. That's my analysis.
Mr. McLean?
Mr. Chairman, I agree with the Premier, but in the same token, it is quite, in my view, I believe it's a little more narrow than we are putting in here now. It's much broader because potentially you could have a staff member, you're the owner of that place and on this board, you could have a staff member that did this, quote, a manager or salesperson or something, that's perceived. That's a perceived conflict. You have no knowledge of it, but it comes from your place. I'm only asking if there's some way we can cover all these bases, or if I'm just being paranoid, basically.
Mr. Premier. Minister, my view is that in those circumstances, the member concerned would have to recuse themselves.
Mr. Miller?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I think the concern that the Freeson is trying to say is that, and I agree with that we need to change all of them. I don't think you should be on the board in the first place. But if the person sitting on the board happens to be the owner of a business, one of his staff does something with that item of which he is not aware now, I also agree that he should be aware of everything his staff does, and I don't want to let him off the hook there. But I'm wondering if there's some other section in the law that not having knowledge of is a reason for not having committed a crime. If that's fine, then I don't have a problem with it, and he taking it up even more.
Mr. Premier? Honorable Attorney General?
Thank you, Chair, but it would only become an issue, and it could only be culpable if he's aware of it and knowingly participate in and make a decision. That's the point.
Does the onus then fall on him to prove that he wasn't aware of it?
Right.
And we know the second of the shape building in Cayman, how long it takes.
But invariably a perception, because this is what it's talking about, a perception of a conflict would arise where there probably some either public announcement somewhere before, somebody stated a position on some issue publicly that is known that this is his stance on it. And then thereafter he then proceeded to get involved. It presupposes that you are aware of some sort of, or you had expressed some prior interest in the thing somewhere, somehow. But if you're not aware, then clearly you can't be culpable. Thank you.
But Mr. Chairman,
Mr. McLean?
may I then ask the Attorney General? I am aware of a development immediately following Ivan that was proposed for East End, my constituency. One of the members on the board, there were objections to that project. One of the members on the board signed a support petition, therefore. Now, it was, I understand that. It was declared, but never left the room. Now, there wasn't any public pronouncement about that as to whether or not he was involved in that project. But the project got turned down on appeal. These are the simple little things that the system will favor what we don't want to happen. I'm concerned, that's all. If all them lawyers over on that side, Mr. Chairman, if they are comfortable with it,
Honorable Attorney General?
99.999% of the time, the person who is affected will know whether he or she is conflicted, or ought to know whether he or she is conflicted. And if you are unclear, then the best way to deal with it is to recuse yourself. Thank you.
Honorable Premier.
Mr. Chairman, thinking this thing through and being practical, if I am a principal in an architectural firm and I'm a member of the Central Planning Authority, I get the agenda in advance so I know what's coming. The responsibility must be mine to check with those who work for me and say, listen, this is what is on today's agenda. Are we involved in any of these matters? And if you are, then you know in advance. So, the members of the board have to accept responsibility for these matters. And I'm not saying that there could never be an instance when the person could not possibly know. Sure, there are always exceptions, but as the Attorney General has said, in 99% of the cases, if you check, as you should, you will know whether you're involved or not.
The question is that the amendment stand part of the clause. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The amendment stands part of the clause. The question now is that clause 10, as amended, stand part of the bill. The question is that clause 10, as amended, stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The clause as amended stands part of the bill.
Clause 11, duty to furnish declarations.
Amendment, Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I move that clause 11(1) be amended by substituting the following for subclauses or sub-subclauses A and B. In paragraph A, by deleting the words income, assets, and liabilities, and substituting, therefore, the words income, assets, and liabilities as specified in section 12, subclause 1. B, B, in paragraph B, by deleting the words income, assets, and liabilities and substituting the words income, assets, and liabilities as specified in section 12, subclause 1.
The amendment has been duly moved. Does any member wish to speak thereto? The question is that the amendment stand part of the clause. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The amendment stands part of the clause. The question now is that clause 11.1, as amended, stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The clause as amended stands part of the bill.
Clause 12, contents of declarations.
Honorable Premier, amendment I understand.
Mr. Chairman, I move that clause 12 be amended by deleting subclause 1 and substituting the following subclause. In making a declaration required under section 11.1, a person in public life shall include, in relation to himself and any connected person, details relating to A, shareholdings and directorships held in any company or other corporate body; B, any contract made with any public entity; C, any company, partnership, or association in which money is invested; D, any trust; E, any land, whether beneficial or otherwise; F, any investment fund in which an interest is held; G, any political, trade, professional, fraternal, or charitable association or organization to which there is a connection; H, sources of income other than a salary or money from other perquisites of office; I, other substantial interests, whether of a pecuniary nature or not, which raise or may appear to raise a material conflict of interest; J, any loan, secured or non-secured, other than from an institution regulated under regulatory laws as defined by Section 2 of the Monetary Authority Law 2011; and K, such other details as Cabinet may prescribe in regulations. 2, by inserting after subclause 1 the following subclauses. Subclause 2, where a person in public life holds property in trust for any connected person, he shall so state in his declaration, but shall not be required to disclose the terms of the trust. And Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I move the following incidental amendment, which has not been circulated to members, but which I have mentioned to you.
I have received notice of the amendment and I'm giving the Honorable Premier permission to bring it. Would you please read so that the committee will hear and understand?
As I said, Mr. Chairman, it is incidental in nature only, and it proposes a new subclause 3, which will read, that subclause 3 be amended by inserting after the words "nothing in" the words "section 11 or," so that so that members understand the effect of the change, so that subclause 3 in clause 12 will read, "Nothing in this section," nothing in section 11 or this section shall be taken to require disclosure of the actual amount or extent of any financial benefit, contribution, or interest.
That would be 11.
12.
11.3, that would be?
Yes. So that members follow what I'm proposing. So that section, or should I say clause 12.3 will be amended so that it reads 12.3. Nothing in section 11 or this section shall be taken to require disclosure of the actual amount or extent of any financial benefit, contribution, or interest. And I apologize to members. The reason why it has been circulated is was the product of the rather protracted discussions we were having in the committee room, and it would have delayed the start of these proceedings further if I'd had to go retype all of this.
Would the,
I have,
Mr. Chairman,
the amendment has been duly moved.
Thank
Would
you.
you like to speak there?
would the member explain what this section is doing together with the present, this subclause, and together with the present clause, what it would be doing with the entire, 12?
Right. Section 11, or actually clause 11 in the bill,
What's the point of making that?
which will become section 11 in the law,
Because
requires a person in public life within 90 days of assuming the functions of his office, or in the case of a candidate for election to the Legislative Assembly, before filing his nomination papers, to make a declaration to the Commission of his income, assets, and liabilities in respect of the previous year in such form as may be prescribed by regulations. And thereafter, no later than 30 days after the 30th of June, in each succeeding year that he is a person in public life, he shall file further declarations of his income, assets, and liabilities for that year ending the 30th of June. Then I'll skip
All the others.
11.2 because that's
Right.
so that is 11. Then section 12.1, which I've just been through with amendments, sets out what is required with respect to a person in public life and any connected person, the details that they are required to provide on the register. What clause 12.3 does is it says that nothing in section 11 or in this section, that is 12, shall be taken to require disclosure of the actual amount or extent of any financial benefit, contribution, or interest. So you have to provide details of this, but you do not have to say what they're worth.
If you have a mortgage,
Mr.
actually, the board made
Mr. Bush?
Any loan from
a bank or
an institution regulated under the Monetary Authority law,
Right.
you're not required to give those details.
any loan.
Yeah. But if you have a private loan from an unregulated entity, if you've made an arrangement with someone you know to borrow money from them, you've got to disclose the existence of that, but not the amount of the loan or the details of the repayment.
And we're not talking any amount?
No amounts.
So you borrow $5, you gotta say you borrow $5?
Right. But the purpose of it is so that the commission will be aware of what your financial arrangements are. If a question arises about the propriety or otherwise of it, the commission please,
Yeah, but I'm
let me
saying
explain.
Mr.
Bush,
Chairman,
let
to
me
save time,
continue.
but I
Just-
quite understand now what the Premier is saying and why he's moving the
Amendment.
that's this other amendment. I quite understand that.
Right, but
the
just let,
commission
for the
can
sake of
ask you to-
completeness, let me finish this.
All right.
Mr. Premier.
Is so that the commission has the information about what your financial arrangements and circumstances are. If any question arises about the propriety of any of this or about a conflict, the commission can ask for further details, can summon you, can insist on the details of what the account is and the transactions and so forth. But that is not required. Those details are not required to be placed in the public view. What is required is the details about the existence of those particular arrangements, not the amounts.
Mr. Miller.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I have two questions. In 12(1)G, any political, trade, professional, fraternal, or charitable associations or organizations to which there's a connection, there's not a definition of fraternal in the bill. Is fraternal organizations restricted to those that are licensed under the Friendly Society Act? Because how would you know that a fraternal organization existed, that there is one?
Honorable Attorney General.
Where is that? Where's that? Where's that?
G.
The
12.
Sorry, thanks. Yeah, the member is correct. There's no definition of fraternal or charitable association. I suppose what we would be guided by, and it's something that we could probably clarify in the regulations, are those that are sort of the well-known and established fraternal organizations. But we did discuss the possibility of clarifying some of these in the regulations.
Mr. Miller, continuing.
Mr. Chairman,
That's okay. I don't understand how you can clarify it in regulations, because there are fraternal organizations here who may not be registered with the Friendly Societies Act. And
yeah.
I think that some way we need to, if you're going to do it in the regulations, or you're going to define the term fraternal and the term charitable as a specific definition in the regulations, then I think there's some comfort in that. But
Well,
If
well,
it's,
Mr. Premier.
Mr. Chairman, I think I know from where the member's concern is coming. But, and I've thought about this myself, but the reality is those of us who are in public life who get to make decisions about a whole range of things, particularly those of us in this house, about how the country's money is spent and so forth. We belong, all of us belong to some organization or another, whether it's a service club, whether it's a fraternity of one kind
what
or
are
the
you?
other.
Those people who fix cars and build houses, them too.
And the public is entitled to know and to be able to make judgments if we make a grant to this association or to this entity or to this charitable body, know what our interest is in that particular association. So I don't see a basis for us excluding certain fraternal, the requirement to declare certain, or connection to certain fraternities.
I don't think that anybody is asking that you make it possible for them to be, not to be included. I think what is being asked is to make it absolutely, sorry? I know that, particularly after it became premier. Any political, trade, professional, fraternal, or charitable, and what people are seeking is that it will do what you're just saying and not leaving it to you to say what you're doing afterwards. I think that's what this is. We're saying let's make it absolutely clear what we're doing rather than you just admitting that you fix cars or build houses and that you don't declare it. Good.
Mr. Miller has continued to ask a question.
Yeah,
And then Mr. McLean.
I'm not seeking that they be excluded. I just want to make sure that they understand they have to be included. But the question is, why isn't the word service clubs in here as well?
But it says that.
Or because, and the other one that is very wide is or organization. That is extremely wide in terms of having to declare that you're a membership of.
It is intended to be wide. I mean, you should know better than anyone else which organizations, which fraternities you belong to. Maybe we can fix this one by saying whether registered or not. If that would help.
Understand where I'm getting. I don't want people to be able to bail out by saying they're not a fraternal organization because they're not registered under the Fraternal Act, or that they're not a charitable organization because they're not approved by EXCO,
So
or they're not a non-profit company.
the word organization would be, well, covering quite a bit
Mr. Premier?
if you put that in, but it's not there now, right?
The organization is there. But you understand where I'm going, Mr. Premier. I'm not trying I'm trying to keep people from being able to slip through the cracks.
Mr. McLean?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, for the sake of clarity, the Premier said that we're all involved in some organization or fraternity, one way or the other. For the sake of clarity, I'm not worthy of being any of them. That's why I have never been asked to join.
Noted.
Thank you. I just want to clear it. I would like to.
Mr. Miller?
I just want to confirm with the Premier that there's an amendment to say registered or unregistered onto this clause. If that's agreed.
Would you repeat that question, please?
The Premier said that one way of achieving what I want to achieve so that everybody is included, that you would put registered or unregistered after the clause. That satisfies my concern because I think that'll take care of what it.
Mr. Chairman, I've consulted with the Attorney General and he thinks that would be appropriate. So, Mr. Chairman, perhaps the appropriate course is for me under Standing Order 52, Suborder 2, to move that clause 12, clause 12, 1G be amended by including the words registered or unregistered after the word organization.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah. Dress you up like a goat now. You gotta come back and say, gotta clap. Not the clap, not even clap now.
Can we move on?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Mr. McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, on that same 1G, this requires all of us in public office to make a declaration required under 11 in relation to himself and the connected person details relating to G. Any political, trade, professional, fraternity, or charitable association or organization registered or unregistered, to which there is a connection. 3, that was just amended, or we're discussing amending, nothing in this section shall be taken to require disclosure of the actual amount or extent of any financial benefit, contribution, or interest. Can we hear what's going to happen with the election law? Because the election law requires us as members of parliament to declare all contributions, particularly over 5,000. But we need to declare the amounts with them. We can't spend over 30 and 35,000 respectively. So how does this conflict, or does it conflict?
Mr. Premier?
Mr. Chairman, I think that is quite distinct from this provision. Those are contributions with respect to an election campaign. It is campaign contributions that the elections law speaks about in the section to which I believe the member is referring, which is quite distinct from this. That governs how much can be spent lawfully for a campaign for the period defined, and it defines how much can actually be accepted from an individual contributor and so forth and so on, dealing specifically with an election campaign, not with your conduct generally as an elected member, which this governs.
Mr. McLean, continue.
Mr.
Then Mr.
Chairman,
Miller.
Mr. Chairman, this also applies to 11, which says a person in public life shall, within 90 days of assuming the functions of his office, or in the case of a candidate for election to the Legislative Assembly before filing his nomination paper, make a declaration to the Commission of his income, assets, and liability in respect of previous years, and such in respect of previous years. But, and if anything within a party, you're a political party, and you're saying you don't have to do it? You don't have to declare the contributions?
That is regulated
Premier?
by the elections law, and whatever the elections law say you have to do with respect to that, you have to do. But that is separate and distinct from this.
But we're drawing blood from stone now, because you want me to do it there, and now you are requiring me to declare here. And I'm trying to see if how this works. You're asking me to declare here if I'm in a political party, all and sundry. But I don't have to say what the contributions were.
Mr. Premier?
Mr. Chairman, this particular provision simply mirrors what was in the Register of Interest Law, which is being repealed. We have extracted what the requirements from there and inserted them here. That is not to say that we do not need to look again at the whole issue with and how the two line up with the elections law.
All right, okay.
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Miller?
We all know there are many things in elections law, aside from single-member constituencies, that need to be dealt with.
Don't be facetious now.
It's not just that has to be dealt with the elections law.
I agree with most of the others too. To you, Mr. Chairman, just not on this particular clause. Not on this particular clause, Mr. Chairman, but can the Premier say whether it's in a particular, what is the reason that the total judiciary seems to be excluded from all of the provisions in this law?
Honorable Attorney General? Premier?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. The the practice has always been that the judges have their own code of conduct which regulates their behavior. I think in 2000 there was a code named the Bangalore Principles, which sets out how a judge is supposed to conduct him or herself. Sets out a range of principles: impartiality, integrity, independence, etc. And in more recent times, certainly in the case of the Cayman Islands, in 2012, I think it was, a judicial code of conduct was promulgated. I think if you go on the Commission Secretariat website, you will see that there's a code of conduct that is printed there. So in that case, you might want to say the judiciary are ahead of us in that respect. And it has always been, we have no difficulty with that judges have always been alert and alive to the possibility of conflict of interest. And it is the usual custom that if there's a perceived conflict or bias, is either raised by an attorney. If it is not raised by an attorney, a judge himself would always make the point that, listen, there is a particular issue with which I am probably remotely connected, and I will hear from counsel as to whether or not they are comfortable with my hearing the matter, and counsel will indicate on the record whether or not they are okay for a judge to sit. So the judge have a long-established code of conduct. The Bangalore Principles and in the Cayman Islands, our own domestic code of conduct that regulate the conduct of judges, and that is where it should be. That speaks clearly to this separation of powers and the independence of the judiciary. Thank you.
Mr. Miller, continue.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, what we're doing here has nothing to do with conduct. This has to do with integrity and registered interest, so I'll know that you own half the car dealership down the road that I'm suing. How is the public supposed to know that a judge may have a possible conflict if we can't expect they register what they own?
We need to trust
Mr.
them.
Attorney General.
We need to trust them to make that clear.
So through you, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Miller, continue.
extrapolate that. If we as parliamentarians in here decided today to just simply adopt a code of conduct, we don't need to be included in this law, then I'll just do it for public servants. No, I want an answer.
Honorable Attorney General.
Mr. Chair, that's a
if
comment.
you can.
That's not a question.
That's a question. If the 18 members of this parliament here today decided to adopt an international convention amongst politicians, right, to say that we were going to do everything right, then we could be exempted from this law too.
That's a matter of policy for government. It will be.
Mr. Premier.
Mr. Chairman, I hear the concerns and even frustration of the members on the other side. But as far as I'm aware, in every jurisdiction, the judiciary are treated quite differently than the executive and the legislative branches of government. So you have special legislation and conventions which govern their operations. And so I don't think it would be appropriate for the judiciary to be included in this particular bill.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, can the Attorney General say whether the judicial code of conduct requires them to register in any document within their separate thing any interest or ownership or stuff that they might have that some attorney who's a member of their fraternity could inspect to see if there was a conflict? How is a conflict discovered? Do we rely on the judge himself admitting and proposing that he would have a conflict when he might be paid to the side to do something about it?
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Premier.
the independence of the judiciary is one of the absolute pillars of our judicial system. And independence of the judiciary doesn't just mean that nobody else interferes with their function. It means that they have to so order their lives that their independence cannot be called into question and that they cannot be accused, or at least not properly accused, of being influenced in the decision making because of their connections to this organization, to that individual, or to this set of events. So I mean, and that is a cardinal principle that runs like a golden thread right through the whole the whole judicial, the philosophy and principles which underpin our whole judicial system. I would not want us in this house to start to invade that particular terrain.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make it clear, I'm not questioning their independence. I just want to know that they have a similar system, that those people who are being subject to their judgments or working within that environment has access to this kind of information in some form to benefit the public that they are judging over? Or is it, I'm not aware of what the code of ethics is. Is it a situation where they simply themselves relied on to identify a conflict and recuse themselves? Or is there some document that some attorney, part of the justice system, could look at and say, yes, this judge owns this car dealership, so he really shouldn't be sitting on whether the dealership treated me properly or not? That's all I'm asking.
Mr. Premier?
It's on the website. It's a public document.
Mr. Chairman, there is a code of conduct that has been developed for the Cayman Islands Judiciary by the Judicial and Legal Services Commission, and has been drawn up pursuant to Section 106, subsection 10, subsection A of the Cayman Islands Constitution, Order 2009. You can go on the website to get it, but if members of this committee wish to have a copy, I can arrange to have copies made. And it speaks to a whole range of things, but specifically and relevant to the current discussion to the concept of independence.
Thank you, Mr. Premier. I'll need to put a question on the last minor amendment that the Premier did. I'll ask the clerk to read the wording. Clerk.
Amendment is that clause 12(1)(g) be amended.
Mr. Chairman, we went on so long about that, but actually I had not finished reading the amendments to that clause.
There was a small addition that you made that you wanted.
Right. The insertion of
I need to take a vote on that.
Roman numeral 3.
I needed to take a vote on the verbal amendment you made before you got to that.
Very well, sir.
Yeah. Those in favor of the amendment as proposed by, sorry.
The amendment to clause 12(1)(g) is that the words registered or unregistered be inserted after the word organization.
The question is that the amendment stand part of the clause. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The amendment stands part of the clause. Please continue now, Mr. Premier.
Mr. Chairman, correct me if I'm mistaken, but I believe we had gotten to, we had completed the new Roman numeral 3. And so I will pick up at what will be the new Roman numeral 4.
Yeah.
Subclause 4.
Yeah.
By deleting that the clause be amended by deleting subclause 4 and substituting the following subclause. 4. A person referred to A in section 11, subsection 4, subsection H, subsection 2. That is to say, a board member of a statutory authority, public authority, commission, or government company, or B, in paragraph 6, 7, or 8 of Schedule 1, that is to say, members of governing bodies of statutory authorities, members of governing bodies of government companies, and members of commissions created by or under the Constitution, shall not be required to include in a declaration any interest referred to in or prescribed under subsection 1 unless there is a possible or perceived conflict with his functions on the entity to which he is appointed. And Mr. Chairman, as I indicated to you before we resumed the committee, I am proposing an additional few words with the hope of clarifying that provision further,
I have agreed to that.
so that it would conclude with shall not be required to include in a declaration any interest referred to in or prescribed under subsection 1, unless there is a possible or perceived conflict with his functions on the entity to which he is appointed arising out of such interest. Arising out of such interest are the additional words which I am proposing to add by way of amendment to this subclause. And the new 5, by renumbering the existing subclauses 2, 3, 4, and 5 as subclauses 3, 4, and 5 and 6.
The question is that the amendment stand part of the clause. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The amendment stands part of the clause. The question is now is that clause 12 as amended stand part of the bill? There's no debate. The question is that clause 12 as amended stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The clause as amended stands part of the bill.
Clause 13, maintenance of registered interest. Clause 14, inspection of declarations. Clause 15, retention of records. Clause 16, offense.
I have a question on 15 before you take the vote.
Clause 16, offenses relating to declarations.
I'll now take the vote on clauses 13 and 14. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Clause 15.
Yeah, through you, Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Miller.
In my debate, I had suggested that the government, asked the government if they would consider changing the period of retention from the records from 3 to 5 years, so that it at least would span the House, 4-year period of the House.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Premier.
Mr. Chairman, if you as chair are prepared to entertain the amendment, the proposed amendment without notice, the government is happy to make the change.
I will accede to that. I think it's very appropriate. So granted. But
He has to move the amendment. Your mic on?
check your mic.
Your mic on?
Sorry. Through you, Mr. Chairman, I move the following amendment to clause 15 in accordance with the relevant standing orders, that the word 3, as it appears before years at the end of the sentence, be deleted and replaced by the word 5, so that the sentence would read, the Commission shall keep every declaration for a period of at least 5 years.
The question is that the period moves from 3 to 5 years. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it.
The question is that the amendment stand part of the clause. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The amendment stands part of the clause. The question now is that clause 15, as amended, stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The clause as amended stands part of the bill. I now take the vote on clause 16. Those in favor of clause 16 as amended, without amendment, stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Clause 16 as amended, not amended, stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The clause as stands part of the bill.
Clause 17, complaints.
Mr. Premier, there's an amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I move that Clause 17 be amended by 1, deleting the marginal note and substituting the marginal note allegations of breach. 2, in subsection 1, deleting the words a member of the public who wishes to allege or make a complaint concerning a person in public life or any connected person has complied with or sufficiently complied with this law shall report the matter to the Commission in writing, and substituting the words, if any person wishes to allege that a person in public life is in breach of this law, that person shall report the matter to the Commission in writing.
The amendment has been duly moved. Does any member wish to speak thereto? Mr. Miller? The question is that the amendment stand part of the clause. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The amendment stands part of the clause. The question now is that clause 17, as amended, stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The clause as amended stands part of the bill.
Clause 18, power of commission to investigate. Clause 19, investigating officers. Clause 20, powers of investigation. Clause 21, right to be heard. Clause 22, matters to be referred to the police. Clause 23, whistleblowers.
The question is that clauses 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23 stand part of the bill. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The question is that that clauses 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23 stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it.
Clause 24, protection of information.
There's an amendment. Honorable Premier.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that Clause 24(1) be amended by deleting the words Section 11 and substituting the words Section 20.
What do you say?
The amendment has been duly moved. Does any member wish to speak thereto? The question is that the amendment stand part of the clause. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The amendment stands part of the clause. The question is that clause 24, as amended, stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The clause as amended stands part of the bill.
Clause 25, commission to act in public interest.
The question is that clause 25 stand part of the bill. Those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The clause as amended stands part of the bill.
Clause 26, appointment of board members.
Mr. Premier, amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move an amendment to Clause 26, Subclause 4, by deleting the word between and substituting therefore among.
The amendment has been duly moved. Does any member wish to speak thereto? If not, the question is that the amendment stand part of the clause. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The amendment stands part of the clause. The question is that clause 24.1, as amended, stand part of the 26 is amended, stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The clause as amended stands part of the bill.
Clause 27, terms of appointment.
Honorable Premier, there's an amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that Clause 27, Subclause 4 be amended. 1, by deleting the word or after paragraph D. 2, by deleting the full stop at the end of paragraph C and substituting a semicolon and the word or. 3, by adding the following paragraph. F, failed to follow any provision of this law, regulations made under this law, or a code of conduct referred to in section 117 subsection D subsection F of the Constitution of the Cayman Islands.
The amendment has been duly moved. Does any member wish to speak thereto?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. McLean?
the Constitution doesn't have...
Did I say D?
Yes.
I made a mistake. It is section 117.9, subsection F of the Constitution of the Cayman Islands.
The amendment has been duly moved. Does any member wish to speak thereto? If no one wishes to speak, the question is that the amendment stand part of the clause. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The amendment stands part of the clause. The question is that clause 27, as amended, stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The clause as amended stands part of the bill.
Clause 28, appointment to fill board vacancy. Clause 29, conflicts of interest, board members.
The question is that clauses 28 and 29 do stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The clause 28 and 29 do stands part of the bill.
Clause 30, remuneration of board members.
There's an amendment. Honorable Premier.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that Clause 30, Subclause 1, be amended by deleting the words "as he shall from time to time" and substituting therefore the words "as cabinet shall from time to time."
The amendment has been duly moved. Does any member wish to speak thereto? If no member wish to speak, the question is that the amendment stand part of the clause. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The amendment stands part of the clause. The question is that clause 30, as amended, stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The clause as amended stands part of the bill.
Clause 31, no board remuneration for civil servants.
The question is that clause 31 stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The clause 31 stands part of the bill.
Clause 32,
There's an amendment, Honorable Premier.
I'll read first. Preservation of immunities, powers, and privileges of assembly.
Honorable Premier.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that clause 32 be amended by adding at the end of the section the words or any member thereof.
The amendment has been duly moved. Does any member wish to speak thereto?
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
McLean?
Mr. Chairman, just ask the Premier, is that specific to the Attorney General and the Deputy Governor? To cover them?
No, Mr.
Mr. Premier?
No, Mr. Chairman. It is to ensure that each individual member has the benefit of those immunities, powers, and privileges, and not the Legislative Assembly as a whole. Not limited to just the Legislative Assembly as a whole, so that it extends to each individual member, whether we are, the Legislative Assembly is sitting or not sitting. It extends to each member, as opposed to the body.
Mr. Chairman, I hear what the Premier is saying.
Mr. Bush?
But
I don't.
is he, the immunities and privileges of this legislature can only extend to this House, to members of the House, sitting or otherwise.
Okay.
Mr. Premier?
When I say sitting, the House sitting or otherwise, a member of this House.
Right.
So it is official members and elected members,
Yeah.
but does not go to board members that we appoint, although this law applies to them. Yes.
Mr. Premier?
Mr. Chairman, if I can try to clarify again. The section says, nothing in this law shall be applied in such a way as to abrogate the immunities, powers, and privileges of the Legislative Assembly. The proposed addition of the words or any member thereof is to ensure that it is clear that the provisions here extend to each individual member of this House and not just the Legislative Assembly as a body, all of us sitting together.
I don't see the need for that, but because
See?
You're tying your hand to the fire,
Mr. McLean?
making sure. Okay. All right, I see it now. But we remember, this is the Legislative Assembly. The Legislative Assembly is only a building unless we're here. I want you to know that. Okay. That's the only time it can be called Legislative Assembly.
That's not the point at all, though.
That's not a point at all?
No.
Well, you have a Legislative Assembly in this country without members in it.
No, I'm not.
But I think we're wasting time.
Okay, all right. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, my other thing was,
Can't get out of that.
I was trying to catch someone when we were doing 30, what
One.
was 30?
31.
No, when you were doing the, oh Lord, 31 I think it was. Where would the civil servants be on the board? If I can just go back to that, Mr. Premier may want to. Because the composition does not include a civil servant, does it? And I hope civil servant's not managing civil servant.
31. Would you repeat the question, Mr. McLean, please?
Mr. Chairman, what I was trying to do was to catch your eye, notwithstanding 31, clause 31. notwithstanding Section 31, which says board members shall at the discretion of the cabinet be paid. A board member who is a civil servant shall not be entitled to receive remuneration. Which civil servant that is? Eh? We putting civil servants on this board?
It's not this board, boards generally.
Oh, okay, okay.
The question is that the amendment stand part of the clause. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The amendment stands part of the clause. The question now is that clause 32 as amended stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The clause as amended stands part of the bill.
Clause 33, contempt of assembly. Clause 34, exemption from liability. Clause 35, regulations.
The question is that clauses 33, 34, and 35 stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. Clauses 33, 34, and 35 do stand part of the bill.
Clause 36, repeal and transitional provisions.
Honorable Premier, I think you have an amendment there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I beg to move that clause 36, subclause 3 be amended by deleting the words 3 months and substituting therefore the words 6 months.
The amendment has been duly moved. Does any member wish to speak thereto? If no one wishes to speak, the question is that the amendment stand part of the clause. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The amendment stands part of the clause. The question now is that clause 36, as amended, stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The clause as amended stands part of the bill.
Schedule 1, persons in public life. Schedule 2, principles to be adhered to.
The question is that Schedule 1 and 2 stand part of the bill. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The schedule as amended, 1 and 2, stands part of the bill.
A bill for a law to preserve and promote the integrity of public officials and institutions and for incidental and connected purposes.
The question is that the title do stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The title stands part of the bill. The question is that the bills be reported to the House. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The bills will accordingly be reported to the House. The House will now resume. We have to go to we go to the House and then we go for lunch.
Oh, Mark, you coming back? You got two motions? Jesus Christ almighty.
The House will suspend until 2:30 p.m. for the luncheon break.
Why you don't finish and get these things done with? No, you dictating it all. Cha.
Suspend until 2:30 p.m.
Suspend until the 15th. Sit down here all morning, do nothing, rushing there for.